KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DIPrima. This show is called First Things First. So let's do our first thing first, the very first thing, giving thanks to God, asking for blessings from the Most High, asking for the blessings of the ancestors and the elders, and let's go. Man almighty, it's a Think Tank Thursday. What's on your mind? We got a lot to think about and also talk about. Are we thinking before we speak? If we are, then we're in an elite group that does not include the President of the United States. So, look, this is how we do things on a Think Tank Thursday. We usually have a challenge, something to think about, something important that's on our plate. Typically, hour one, we look local. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive with a hot topic or an important person or both. And today, I am excited to have with us Brittany Friedman. She is, I should say, Dr. Brittany Friedman. She's an author and a scholar. Exactly what we need on a Think Tank Thursday. Her book, Carceral Apartheid, How Lies and White Supremacists Run Our Prisons, is just a jump-off point for today's important conversation. Right now, it's me, you, and the microphone, telephone, megaphone, whatever kind of thing you got going on, your psychic network. Miles is here too. 800-920-1580. 800-920-1580. That is the number. And I have a big announcement, Miles.
What you got?
I've got to get better at big announcements. Tavis is the king of big announcements. I just say big announcement and then say it like I think I should have said this yesterday and then, kind of drawn it out.
Okay.
But,
Wait, you good?
yeah, so big announcement. Want to know where we're going this year?
Ooh.
That's the big announcement. We're going back to the motherland. We will not let these cretins and scary people deter us. And besides, you might want to scout your new home. Anyway, we are headed south. We're going to Zambia and Botswana. And it's so funny because Dr. Gerald Horn, who is a favorite on this show, many years ago when I first started going to Africa, said, you must go to Zambia. And we just never got to it. That was Gerald Horn's recommendation. Go to Zambia. So now we're doing it. We're going to Zambia and Botswana.
Should be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be very fun. We're going to Lusaka, Zambia, which is, the capital of that country. So we'll tour the city. We'll do sightseeing and, of course, shopping. And then we'll go to Livingstone, Zambia, which is the other side of Mosi-oa-Tunya Falls, known to the Europeans as Victoria Falls. So one side is on Zimbabwe, and the other side of the falls is in Zambia. This side of the falls is in Livingstone. It's not as huge, but it's so beautiful, and there's a giant bridge crossing the area of the falls. So we'll get to do a guided tour of the smoke that thunders.
Okay.
Mosi-oa-Tunya Falls, and we'll go to more shopping. And then we end in Kasane, Botswana. And when we were in Zimbabwe, there's a place in Zimbabwe by Mosi-oa-Tunya Falls where you can see it's like the crossroads. You go one way, it's Zimbabwe. You go the other way, it's Botswana. They're that close together. So we're going to go to Kasane, which is right kind of near the border with Zimbabwe, and we'll do a boat cruise on the Chobe River. We're going to do safari, a boat safari, and chill at a resort before we leave. So Zambia and Botswana, and you can go. Well, if you hurry up, you can go. This is our 8th trip to the motherland. It would be 10 if it wasn't for COVID. But anyway, this is our 8th trip to the motherland with African Focus Incorporated. So if you want to go, you're thinking of going, you can call 310-676-7300. It's just a lot of fun. You'll travel with me and the folks from African Focus Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization focused on bringing Africans and African Americans together and spreading accurate information about the motherland. This whole trip is a benefit for African Focus. The thing about it, though, that's cool, is we combine, aside from going to the motherland, which is always cool, but we combine like vacation with cultural tour with doing some service. So we always go to a school or orphanage and give back something to the children there. And we get to meet and hang with the children, which is very inspiring. And then we always get to learn about the history and culture of that country, but we also do touristy things like shopping and going out partying and stuff like that. So it's kind of a way of combining three different types of vacations into one, or three different types of trips. Miles, this will be your third trip.
Big three. Yes, yes. So this is gonna be a lot of like animals we're gonna be seeing on this one.
Yeah, well, yeah, because whenever you go to Southern Africa, I mean, that's the main thing that they feature for tourists.
Okay.
We create our own cultural tours and service, the service part. That's something that we do through the organization. But as far as what tourists do when they go to Southern Africa, eat and enjoy nature.
Okay.
Apparently, there's an optional rhino tracking tour
Ooh.
um, on foot.
On?
Yeah, well, you go with a person, a guy with a huge gun. I I did the walking safari when we were the first time we went to Tanzania. Even though Stevie Wonder forbid me from doing it, I decided to do it anyway.
Stevie go on a.
No, he didn't go, but he likes to make sure you don't die when you go out of the country.
Okay.
But it was kind of scary, but it was also really fun because you're on the ground, you're seeing everything in real time, and we saw buffaloes and giraffes and a lion in the far distance. But the man, the guide was a local man, and he had a ginormous gun, and I guess that's in case you get stampeded by like buffalo more than lions.
Okay.
Buffalo kill more people. Anyway, it was really fun, and we had to, follow his lead, like how we had to move. No perfumes, no flashy jewelry. You want to blend in. I guess that's why you see, in those old movies, you see white folks wearing the khakis all the time
Right. Right.
because you're meant to blend into and it's, that grass, the savannah. Um, Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I have always wanted to go to Zambia. And when I was in Zimbabwe, I was looking over at Botswana, and I said, I'm coming back here. I want to see the other side of Victoria Falls. So if you want to go, 310-676-7300. I think this is a great service that KBLA Talk 1580 is able to do to help support this nonprofit and help some, because it's most of the time everyone's invited, but it's mostly black people, black Americans that go on.
Yeah, and the charity part of giving back to it when we get there, it really opens your heart. Really opens your heart in times like this when we look at we have to be grateful.
Yeah.
We just got to realize that even in our own situation that there is a need to give back, and it really opens your heart. So I think that's definitely something we should pay attention to.
Yeah, I think that's right. And also in this moment, it's really helpful to travel. I found it helpful last year to travel far away because it does give you a perspective on what's going on in our country, in a sense that, it's temporary. We get an idea of how we impact others, but also that this world is big and wide. And if this place gets too doggone out of control, there are many other options. And although Africa would be challenging because you would have to figure out, well, I guess that's like any other country. How will I make a living if I move here? Can I be a digital nomad and work from anywhere? Some people can do that if you have that type of job. But because you're not going to go to Africa and compete with the locals for a job, that is not a good plan.
At those wages too.
Yeah, no, not at all. You're going to want to bring a business of your own, or your retirement check would do, if you have a decent retirement or some means of making your own living. But they are very welcoming. They would love to have you. And there's a lot of different kinds of places, city, country, forest, desert. It's all there in Africa.
And do it now while the dollar is still at the value it's at now before that tanks.
All right. Miles has become Mr. Stock Market. Why do you say that? You think we're tanking?
No, I mean, I just, well, first of all, I mean, we talked with, with our guy Uchenna, and he was telling us about the difference of the dollar, year after year. So now, you got to pay attention to that. I mean, it's going to go down.
Yeah.
As people start, we go a little more digital. As we get the BRICS, we get people wanting to be a little more sovereign. I just see it coming. So
yeah, well, it is true when you talk about BRICS. And there has been a movement for some time to stop using the dollar as the worldwide standard. And given what is happening in our country right now, it seems that is speeding up. Yesterday was the last day they made the penny, by the way. The penny, the mint is not making, I guess it costs 5 cents to make a penny.
What does run out of pennies mean?
I mean, people lose them, and, they put them in their little penny collection jars and whatever they do. So the mint keeps making new pennies. As of Wednesday, they're not making any more. So when we lose or destroy or melt down, whatever people do with pennies, it's like socks. They just disappear.
Okay, all right.
So whenever these are done, y'all don't get no more. And I guess they're going to have to start changing prices. Everything's going to be in 5 and 10 cent increments. Because how can you pay if you don't have, no one can give you back a penny.
Okay.
The penny is no more. But yeah, to your point, the dollar, I mean, that hit us hard last year because the dollar was down against the Ghanaian money and the Nigerian money. So our dollars didn't go as far. I think it's pretty decent in Southern Africa, but we shall see. And also we're going somewhere that's not on Trump's ish list. So that gives us a little geopolitical safety net, at least for now. 800-920-1580, that's the number if you want to call in and talk about stuff. There's much going on here locally, or if you want to talk about the trip, if you're thinking of coming with. You know what? If you're single, this is a great way to travel too, because you're going to make friends and you don't have to be with anyone. You're going to be with a friendly group. We all hang out together anyway. So that's how we do it. AfricanFocus.org, or you can call the number. I'm Dominique DIPrima for KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DIPrima when we come forward.
Whoa, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Charmin Ultra Strong. You can use less, better than the rest. Charmin Ultra Strong. Your booty past the clean test. Salmon wave texture, it's the best. Study up, teach a lesson on fresh. Your booty past the clean test. Yes, sir. Charmin Ultra Strong.
Charmin Ultra Strong with diamond weave texture cleans better than the leading one-ply brand, so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community focused. So just go to KBLA1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub.
Show host. Let's get back to Dominique DIPrima right now.
Back to me, back to you at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. Meanwhile, back in the United States, I know this is our local hour, but looking forward to talking next hour about what is happening with the Epstein files, the presidential meltdown that is happening now that there will at least be a vote, even though, it's funny they're so panicked because this is going to take a minute no matter what happens. Yeah, looking forward to talking to you and with you about that. So it's storming. That's what we got coming up. If you're in LA, it's storming. We got supposedly rain today and then maybe thunderstorms tomorrow and rain going all the way through the following Friday. Like basically we're looking at a week and some change of rain. And today's supposed to be that weird earthquake weather where it's like off and on raining, but then, it's sunny. So, yeah, I'm not trying to call forth an earthquake. I just have been in many of them. But mostly a lot of rain, so it's the usual storm watch type scenario. But a week is a lot, so, make sure that your drains and stuff are open. Plus, it's raining and Mercury retrograde, which means it's going to take really long to get everywhere. It's what they call an atmospheric river. I think I first heard that term just a couple of years ago. I thought it was made up, but whatever. It means just a whole lot of rain. And the good news is, I've got good news and I've got bad news. Your house might slide down the hill, but it won't burn down. That's your Southern California love right there. California love. And that's actually a good thing because I think, we are still traumatized from last year. And part of the perfect storm that happened for last year's fires was this very rainy season in, I think, the winter before, and then no rain the whole year. So by that January, we had tons of foliage and it was very dry. So getting this, seasonal storm now is actually really good because it could interrupt all the way through to that winter dry season. Speaking of the fire danger, we were talking about the new revelations about the Lockman fire in the Palisades, where our mayor, Karen Bass, is actually the mayor, unlike Pasadena, Altadena, where she's not the mayor, and where we found out that apparently firefighters wanted to stay and keep working on that Lockman blaze, but they were ordered by a battalion chief to bounce. And now that is believed to be the starting point of that huge Palisades fire. Well, the deputy but in the meantime, he is calling for an investigation. So that was new. Yesterday we were getting a lot of no comment. But there should be an investigation. And the thing is, I want the most important thing, the number one priority, just like with looking for Pedro, which is, I guess we found Pedro. So urging Pedro to do the right thing is the phase we're in now. On the east side, right, with the Altadena situation. On the west side and the east side, the most important thing is to make the people whole, to let them get back in their homes as fast as possible to make sure they get the kind of compensation from whether it's Southern California Edison or their insurance company, FEMA, although I know those are small dollars. That's the number one priority. How do we rebuild? How do we make people whole? Help them get through the trauma? And as James Farr said on this show the other day, not just recovery, but also still relief. A lot of people still need relief. It's not just rebuilding. It's how do I get through the day-to-day? How do I pay for things? And we think of the Palisades as wealthy, and there is a high median income there. But there are low-income folks there, too. There are renters there, too. And middle class and wealthy people also need homes. Like, everybody needs to rebuild and get past the trauma and be made whole. So it's funny because the news outlets, and I missed this somehow yesterday, the news outlets were saying that the mayor had no comment. But the Mayor Karen Bass, said weeks ago that we should have an investigation into the response to the Lockman fire. And when she said it, people were acting like, she was deflecting. But then we get the revelation that not only did the battalion chief send these firefighters home when they were saying, hey, look, there's still smoke coming out of these embers and the rocks are still hot. This is in the Palisades. They were sent home anyway. The fire department knew it, including Chief Crowley when she sat up there crying crocodile tears. Is that what we call them now? Crocodile tears on CNN. Including when they had a press conference, multiple press conferences, when they had meetings with community and they were throwing the mayor under the bus. They already knew that the fire that we believe started this fire was not sufficiently put out by them, that a battalion chief sent the firefighters home, which to me is crazy. When your guys and women on the ground are telling you this is a problem, and you're sitting back in an office, I think you listen to the guys and women on the ground. It's still smoking. Okay, take care of that. No. Oh, okay, come on back. Even though we had warning coming of high winds and high fire danger in the days ahead, that makes no sense. So an investigation is definitely warranted. And the fact that they were dangerous. We don't leave the scene of fires that are still smoking or where the rocks are hot, knowing that they had done exactly that and that a report showed that. The fire chief, the interim chief, says our members were not listened to and were not heard. And that is why I'm supporting Mayor Bass's request for an independent investigation into the Lockman fire, because I want to get to the bottom of it. And apparently the fire union is in support of the chief, and in support of him becoming the permanent chief, which is what the mayor has requested. But part of my question is, we won't see redactions from news organizations. Will the community now put the responsibility, at least partially, if not fully, on the department tasked with keeping them safe from fires, also known as the fire department? 800-920-1580 if you want to call in. I'd love to talk to you. News, traffic, and sports right now, only right here.
More of First Things First with Dominique DIPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The Justice Department is investigating violent protests at a Turning Point USA event at UC Berkeley in California. It featured a number of speakers, including comedian Rob Schneider.
They're coming not from a place of rationality. They're coming from a place of emotion.
At least 4 arrests were made after fights broke out. President Trump is asking the Supreme Court to allow National Guard deployment in Chicago, saying federal agents alone can't handle immigration enforcement and rising crime. His administration argues the move is legal under federal law, with regular forces referring to civilian agents, not the military. And attorney Faith Jenkins Lattimore and husband singer Kenny Lattimore are suing over false YouTube videos claiming cheating and divorce. The couple says anonymous channels used AI-generated documents and altered audio to spread lies. They filed a defamation lawsuit in June. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Hard rock style is coming to the Central Valley, just 15 miles south of Bakersfield off Route 99. You'll find world-class gaming and entertainment. Less drive time equals more playtime. The all-new Hard Rock Casino Tejon, opening November 13th.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It was a rough night Wednesday for both of LA's NBA teams. The Lakers were in Oklahoma City and got crushed. The defending NBA champs beat the Lakers by 29, 121-92. 30 points and 9 assists for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Lakers had 20 turnovers. At the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic scored 25 points in the first quarter against the Clippers en route to a 55-point performance. The Clippers have lost 6 straight after going down 130-116. LeBron practiced for the first time this season on Wednesday. He participated in 5-on-5 scrimmages with the Lakers G League team, the South Bay Lakers. LeBron has been sidelined with a sciatic nerve condition in his lower back and left leg. The Lakers are planning to give him some playing time on Sunday in South Bay's next game against the Rip City Remix, the Portland Trailblazers G League affiliate. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your...
During Medicare open enrollment.
You can't assume your current health or drug plan is the best one for you.
And you gotta make sure your drugs are covered. That's important.
So is saving money.
Review all your options at Medicare.gov. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
KBLA Talk 1580, standing with you in perilous times. If you've been impacted by the federal government shutdown or the discontinuation of SNAP benefits, you can find a food bank near you that's offering free groceries by going to lafoodbank.org or call 211. Additionally, LA County offers free meals at certain parks. There are meals and snacks for kids and seniors. Visit parks.lacounty.gov to find out which centers are offering which programs and to register in advance. And in addition to offering 2 free meals per day for all students, the LA Unified School District provides weekend meal kits for its students by request. The meal kits can be picked up on Fridays at grab-and-go locations. Please visit lausd.org/Cafe LA. That's lausd.org/CAFELA. We keep us safe. We keep us provided for. We keep us connected. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader. If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580. That's right. Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader.
Following the leader.
Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on Autopsy, then click on Request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action.
The YouTube chat is fire. You can go in the comments section in our live stream broadcast, which we do every day, every weekday at KBLA 1580. And they're saying they're having some trouble with the feed, Miles. It's Mercury retrograde. It might be the internet. It could be who knows what. But please just, maybe reboot your computer. I don't know. We'll reboot ours. We'll try to figure it out. Please hang in there because I love when you're there, especially on a Think Tank Thursday. So the LA City Council has voted to restrict rent, to lower the amount that landlords can raise rent in the apartments throughout most of LA. And the rent control of COVID was pretty strict, right? We came out of that. We had the Renters' Bill of Rights. And so LA has become pretty renter friendly in terms of the rules. Now it is even more so. The rent control measures in the city will be capped at 4% every year. That's the most they can do. Well, it could go up more depending on the cost of living, but the flat rate is 4%. And there used to be 2% more that landlords could charge, that they could raise your rent if they were paying utilities. That's gone. I guess what that does is it makes it less likely that landlords are going to pay utilities, because utility costs have gone through the roof too. If you look at the price of gas, appliances and such, and water, and now the trash, it's gone up, up, up. So I would imagine that's something that landlords are simply going to pass on to tenants. So I don't know how effective that is. And I'm glad that we have strong rent control. I agree with the city council that the rents are so high that it is making it, she says extraordinary rent increases are driving people out of the city. I think that's true. I think it's not fair that most renters cannot afford to live where they work. My issue is that there's no carve out for mom and pop landlords. And there's a lot of black people, a lot of Latinos who maybe have a duplex, or they own a home and then they have one other property, or they have an in-law apartment that they rent out, and that is their retirement. That's how they live. And those are the people who really got hit hard in COVID, because many of them, and I know tons of people like this, they're always yelling at me when I cheer on rent control here on this microphone. And I continue to cheer on rent control, but I to me it's amazing that the city doesn't distinguish between these corporate landlords that own tons of buildings and individuals who are managed to buy a property or maybe two properties, and that's how they live. That is their the maintenance costs, which a lot of them don't do anyway, especially in the so-called slumlords, that the apartments are run down anyway. Interesting, council members Blumenfeld and Lee voted against this, and Curran Price had to recuse himself because he's actually a landlord. This is apparently it's the first time they've done a major overhaul since 1985, and it doesn't seem like it because there was so much going on during COVID that impacted landlords and tenants. And I think it was Michael in the chat saying that, some homeowners are still angry because they never got paid back for COVID. And that was one of my issues, is that it seems like the city and the county and the state felt that it was the job of landlords and home, building owners, especially those mom and pops, to carry the load for the city and the county. The city and county should have been paying that rent or those mortgages to those landlords, not the landlords subsidizing the county and the city. And so, Michael points out that there's 12 new zoning exemptions for mixed use, and we got to see how all of this interacts with the new law coming from the governor about creating more allowing more density in housing because of the housing shortage. Michael says 12,000 evictions in LA last year, 0 council members evicted. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there were no city council members evicted. Most of them are homeowners, so they're not going to evict themselves. Some of them are renters. And clearly our city has an affordability crisis, not just in rent, in everything. Food, clothing. Remember when you could take Uber and Lyft and it was affordable? Now it's crazy. Now it's, even though jury person Lynn says it's still cheaper to do rideshare, I think it's cheaper to have a car now because you don't know what they're going to do with surge pricing. But our city has a housing crisis, and so I'm glad that the city council is taking action, even if it needs more tweaking. We have to repeal Costa-Hawkins. I think we've tried it 3 times statewide, right? To be able to have real rent control in the state of California. It was never that it was going to control everybody's rent. It was just that we would get rid of that dumb state law that says you can't put rent control on newer buildings. It's dumb, it's outdated, and it should go away. So that's a win. But I really feel like the city council's got to step up and protect these. Many of them are older Americans, people in their 70s, 80s, and beyond, who own 1 building or 2 buildings. And that is how they pay for their food and their and their but also it covers units that replace rent control units. In other words, those pre-78 buildings that were demolished to create new units, or if they're attached to older buildings. And I didn't realize that 2/3 of LA's residents are renters. So that means those new rules impact a lot of people, but it's only 42% of the housing stock, and that's partly because of Costa-Hawkins, which is what we need to fix on the statewide level before we can do really, really meaningful rent control. And again, we'll see if this is true. I feel like they can massage these things, but people have to be able to live where they work. I mean, otherwise we're basically one big plantation. You go live out there, in the slave wage quarters, and let the wealthy live in the city. And it is connected to houselessness. It has to be. If your rent keeps going up, 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 how do you stay housed? Let's go to Ira calling us from L.A. Good morning, Ira.
Yeah, protect black women. On the Karen Bass issue, I just wanted to let people know, as per the Project 2025, the idea is really to put all the blame on her for this one term, and then that way, whenever a black woman in the future tries to run for mayor, they'll just harken back to Karen Bass's term. And see, it was a failure. You can't trust black women. They're going to put all the blame on her head.
Okay, they've already done so. I think she's finding her way forward and finding her way out of that, and that's why I think the real thorough investigation of what actually happened and what the fire department's role was in that is an important part of the puzzle, not just for the reason of blame, but for the reason of making sure this doesn't happen again.
Well, they're not so concerned about it happening again. If it does, I mean, the people in the Palisades are going to be reimbursed. They're going to be remunerated. They're going to be made whole.
But by the insurance companies, is that what you're talking about? Because, you know, they still have their own challenges. I think you're right that the East Side has more challenges. People were more tending to be underinsured or not insured at all because they had inherited those homes. They don't have a mayor to fight for them like we do. They're at the hands of the LA City Council. Obviously, we saw the neglect by Trump, you know, when he came into the neighborhood, but to the area. We've seen the neglect, at least initially, by the mainstream media. So I think that's fair. But to say that people in Palisades are going to automatically be made whole, I don't think that's accurate. Insurance companies are doing all kinds of shady stuff right now.
And they're going to pay for that in the long run. It's going to take time, but they're going to squeeze it out of them because there's too many shot callers in the Palisades.
How do you see that? Because if the insurance companies are leaving California, people there, powerful people there, but they can also get messed over by insurance companies. I mean, you know.
They can. I mean, certainly the insurance companies are shady. There's no doubt about that. But what's going to happen is even if they leave California, they're still going to be held responsible wherever they go. They're still going to be in operation. They're just hiding their funds. They're going to be able to track those funds down. They're going to get remuneration from them, and they will be made whole once again, I believe, much more so than the good folks on the East Side.
Yeah, I would say much more so. I don't, you know, we the other thing we forget about, Ira, is that there are actually renters in the Palisades and in the East Side. And I think that those renters in the Palisades may be SOL because they're not, the shot callers, as you call them, do not want to build back that affordable housing.
Well, I own in the Palisades. I own rental properties there. And we're deciding now whether they're going to rebuild. Look, California itself is simply not the marketplace to be rebuilding right now. There's too much foreign real estate money going on here. That's what's ruining everything. They have infinite funds to rebuild and such. We can't compete with that.
I mean, to be clear, those are not the immigrants. Those are the foreign investors, i.e. China, et cetera. But don't you think that's a problem or a trend line nationwide? It's not just L.A.
It's overtaken America. There's no doubt about that. And America is very odd. America is the one country that favors immigrants over its own. Most other countries favor its own over immigrants.
I don't. In what way? Give me an example. Give me an example of how this country favors immigrants over its own. Because I don't think that's right. I think I don't think we favor immigrants. I think that's a talking point of the Republican Party. But so give me an example, a specific example.
Our great president just mentioned earlier today how they threw away the South Koreans, how they kicked them out of the country. He said, hey, we're going to need those people. He favored those people over the Americans who were already here.
First of all, our president is a liar, so he's not a good source to cite. But the case of the South Koreans is really interesting because we invited them to build that factory. They brought their workers, and then we kicked them out, which is really kind of strange. Now, they created those jobs, and then, of course, I would prefer jobs to go to U.S., citizens or residents. But I think that I think to say that we favor migrants is not accurate. I think a lot of the talking point around that are things people have heard that turn out to be not actually true. Like people
problem
think
is in America,
people think that when you come to the United States, you get money. Like somebody hands you money. No, that's not true. It's just one of those things someone made up that makes people mad, so they repeat it.
we're just not preparing kids to be math and science types, tech types. That's why they're coming from other countries and they're dominating, whether it's Indian, Chinese, wherever it may be. And
But that's
we favor that.
But that's a tiny, yeah, and that is true. But that's a tiny percentage of migrants on a special kind of visa. That is not the vast majority of folks that come here are asylum you that the problem is landlordism, but you are a landlord. Do you price gouge, Ira?
We charge all of our residents fairly. I mean, there are laws that we follow, and that's exactly what we do. Now, we ride along with whatever the market value is.
Right. See, but yeah, so I think that I mean, I'm not just singling you out, but one of my issues, there's a double issue. On the one hand, I think that people that own individuals, mom and pop landlords, should be able to profit off their properties. At the same time, I think there's a lot of price gouging because it shouldn't just be what the market will bear. Don't you think there's something about fair prices and keeping communities whole? And, you know, we want to complain about gentrification and then charge the so-called market value, which no one can actually afford because the market value is not the market rate that people are being paid for the jobs that they work in this city. Ira, land for me real quick. I'm up against the clock here.
Yeah, it sounds like you believe in the Easter Bunny here. Look, that would be terrific. I'd love that. But if you're in the Palisades, you're living in one of America's best neighborhoods, and you're going to have to pay the price for it. That's just how capitalism works.
Yeah, well, or how capitalism doesn't work. But, you know, do I believe in the Easter Bunny? No. Do I believe that people can be ethical, moral, fair, and correct? Yes, I do. I do. Maybe not all people, but we have that ability. We're back to character. What the heck? 800-920-1580. That's the number I recalled, and you can do the same. We are unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Established in 2020 during a time of deep racial unrest across our state and country, the Black Freedom Fund was created to make sure that leaders and organizations working to support Black communities and build power have the resources they need to stay in the fight for the long haul. We believe that those closest to the issues impacting our communities know best how to solve them. That's why in just the last 5 years, we've granted more than $45 million to over 200 grassroots organizations across California. That is the largest collective investment in Black organizing in history, and we're just getting started. We are clear-eyed and committed, more now than ever, to our people, our power, and our possibility. Join us in creating a future where Black people harness their full power to shape their lives and realize a just world for all. Learn more at fundblackfreedom.org. That's fundblackfreedom.org. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.
with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
You got a big mouth. Hello, Joe, you're up. Welcome.
We're unapologetically progressive, and we don't black down.
Yeah, well, look, if you were looking for Pedro, he has popped up. Sometimes he just got to pop up and show him. Well, he's pop up and showing us. He is popped up in the Los Angeles Times this morning. I think he just probably offered himself up as an interview subject. I wonder what could have prompted that. He's promising swift payouts to the Eaton fire victims who sign on to their settlement terms and admitting, which we already know, he's already admitted, that the that the equipment of Southern California Edison was probably to blame, and you don't say that to the LA Times if it wasn't. He says that they are expecting settlement offers to go out to the first people to apply by the end of the month, and that they have fixed the transmission line that wasn't used since the 70s. They've re-energized it. I guess that's meant to make it safer. But I just think it's awfully convenient that after flaking on our town hall and giving a vague response to, after inviting themselves on Tavis's show and then giving a vague response as to whether they were actually going to do Tavis's show, they're on the cover of the Times. Mr. Pizarro, well, there he is. Edison International Chief Executive Pedro Pizarro said Wednesday that the utility expects the first Eaton fire victims who have agreed not to sue the utility to get their settlement offers later this month. Well, well, well. I wonder if they asked the same questions that Mr. Smiley would ask, and I certainly hope that this is part of a tour that they're kicking off that includes KBLA Talk 1580. Pizarro said there's no other clear probable cause at this point, which is a pretty loud admission of guilt. And he pointed out that if you want this so-called fast money, you have to promise not to sue. Apparently 580 people have taken the deal so far, and he's now promising that people will be paid within 30 days. Just so interesting that they would decide to ramp up the PR. And it's true. I have heard ads on other radio stations. Oh, mighty, mighty KBLA delegation. Y'all are making waves. And we can still make waves. His email is still pedro.pizarro@sce.com. And in case you want to say, hey, saw your or where you have such a controlled environment. You can also call them 626-302-2255, 626-302-2255. Then you select option, you just hit the 1 on your phone. And get through. Say what you want to say. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. But I do think it's quite a coincidence that this article lands on the front page of the Los Angeles Times this day, just one day after a sort of very vague letter to Mr. Smiley saying, yeah, well, in the appropriate time and place, we'll send somebody. No, not somebody. Mr. Pizarro, we want to speak to you. And this ain't Jerry Springer. It's safe to come in the water. 800-920-1580 if you want to talk after news, traffic, and sports. The phone lines remained open. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. The Justice Department is investigating violent protests at a Turning Point USA event at UC Berkeley in California. It featured a number of speakers, including comedian Rob Schneider.
They're coming not from a place of rationality. They're coming from a place of emotion.